Hey, Dustin Tibbetts here, financial advisor with Jazz Wealth Managers. How's it going today? This is a FinTip series that we do. Real short videos here, and today what I'm going to do is go over 4 reasons you may not want to have the Roth IRA, right? We do Roth IRAs here, traditional IRAs, 401k rollovers and things like that, but it's not always the best option to just go right for the Roth IRA, and so we're going to talk about this. Number 1, here we go. If your income is too high, this is kind of an obvious one, so I'll start with this one. If you are married filing jointly, see, there are rules if you're allowed to directly contribute to a Roth IRA or not. If you're married filing jointly and you have income, modified adjusted gross income of $196,000, or you could still contribute, you're good to go if it's $196,000 or less, but if it's greater than $196,000, you all of a sudden start getting phased out. If you go from $196,000 to $206,000, you can contribute, but at a lesser amount. It's known as a phase out, right? So I know that says greater, but $196,000 or less, you're good to go. If we go over $196,000, then we have to say, what's your number? Where are you at? Because if you're in this ballpark, you're phased out. It's an equal increment of $1,000, almost $1,000, and you're phased out there. Anything greater than 206, and if you're married filing jointly with a modified adjusted gross income over $206,000, you're not allowed to directly contribute, right? So keep that in mind. Don't want to get you in trouble. I always focus on married filing jointly people, but if you're single, right, and you want to contribute to the Roth IRA, then under $124,000, you are good to go. Modified adjusted gross income, bottom line number, add back some of your contributions, things like that. $124,000, good to go. But once you go over $124,000, then we got to see where you land, right? So you want to look at that and you say it's right now it's 136. This changes every now and then, but it's up to 136,000. Go over that, modified adjusted gross income, not your salary, okay? Go over that, you can't directly contribute. So we've got anything less than these numbers in this filing status, good to go. Once you go over, just double check if you're in this ballpark, you'll have a reduced amount. Anything over that amount, and you can't directly contribute. So number 1, your first tip is if your income is too high, just run your income through that model real quick and just say, okay, here's where I stand. If you can't directly contribute, of course, a Roth's not good for you. Number 2 is, it gets everybody. This one gets everybody. If you're married filing separately for personal reasons, and you're still with your spouse, right? You haven't divorced or split or anything. You're married filing separately because of some other, I don't need to know why. It could be child support, could be student loans. There's a number of different reasons. But if you're married filing separately, the IRS knows the game that you're trying to play. We know what's going on. So the IRS says if you make over $10,000, no Roth, right? Most people, that's the case. They make over $10,000, they're married filing separately, think they're going to pull one over on the government. Sadly, if you open a Roth IRA, you don't tell me that you're married filing separately. I won't know. I'll just let you keep contributing. We can fix it, but we don't want you to get in trouble. So if you're married filing separately, but you're together and you make over $10,000 a year, then you can't contribute directly to the Roth. We've got to get a little creative there. Okay, the third person that doesn't want to contribute to or may not want to consider a Roth IRA, these are my upper income earners. Maybe you're still in that range where you can contribute, but it's now starting to become the question of, should we use pre-tax money? Should we consider going to the 401ks and the TSPs, using different types of IRAs, seeing what we can do there? Be careful if you say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to use an IRA, right? Because here's the case, right? If you make too much money, maybe it doesn't make sense to put money in the Roth, but the next thing you think is, I'm going to go to the IRA. So be careful here because, and I'm going to try to write this out in a way that's not confusing because the IRS really confuses it. If your spouse, you're married filing jointly, and if your spouse has a 401k, you don't, but your spouse does, and you're going to go contribute to the IRA. If your modified adjusted gross income is greater than $206,000, you can still contribute. Nobody's going to stop you. But if you do that, you won't get any deduction for the money that gets put in there. If your spouse has the 401k, right? You think, oh, I'm good to go. She's got the 401k. I don't have it. It's no big deal. No, no. If your spouse has it and your modified adjusted gross income's over $206,000, you can't contribute. If you say, that's not me, my spouse doesn't have that, I have the 401k. If you have the 401k, spouse doesn't, and you are over $124,000 together as a family, no deduction. So the third tip today is if you're an upper income earner, we want to look at other ways for you to save because it's probably beneficial to lower your taxable income, but be careful if you go getting excited thinking you're going to run to the IRA if this applies to you. If both of you do not have a 401k, doesn't matter. Now, the key word is covered. So the IRS says if you are covered by a 401k, or if your spouse is covered by a 401k, doesn't mean participating. It means if you're covered. So it's just there. It's available. So don't fall into the trap of saying, well, we both have 401ks, but we don't use them. We don't contribute to them. No, no. If you're covered. Now, the word covered also covers SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, employer contributions and plans like that. Those are often forgotten there, so be very careful. So tip number 3, you make a lot of money, you're going, okay, I can't contribute directly to the Roth, I get it, makes sense, I'll go use the IRA. Wait a minute, we've got to run a little bit of a test here to make sure that you can do that. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, you might not want to use a Roth IRA if you are within 5 years of retirement and you are close to or over the age of 59. So there's a 5-year rule. This one always gets confused by people. That's okay. If you're 30 years old, 5-year rule doesn't apply to you. If you're 35, doesn't apply to you. 40, 45, 50 doesn't apply to you. It applies to the people that are right around the 59 mark. So if you're 58 and you say, I'm going to start a Roth IRA, I'm going to retire in 2 years, it'll be great, I'll start taking out my money. Not so fast, right? The IRS says that if you are 59 and a half, you can take the money out, your contributions, your growth, earnings, whatever it is, you could take the money out provided that you've had the IRA for 5 years. So in that example, person is 58, person says, I'm going to fire one up. Dustin, I'm going to join you here at Jazz. I'm going to do this, start the Roth IRA. I'm going to retire at 61 years old, start pulling out all the money. There's not enough years there. We need 5 years, right? So careful there. Now, if you contribute dollars into the Roth, oh, you can take those out anytime. 5-year rule doesn't apply to your contributions. It applies to the growth, right? You bought, I don't know, Apple. You bought Apple, it went up, and now you're 61, you want to retire. You want to take all your dough out and start living your retirement. The IRS is going to say, when did you open it? Did you open it when you were 58, 57, 56, 55? Okay, you're good to go. But if you opened it too close, within a 5-year window, it doesn't count. Now, let's say you open this on December 1st in this current year, right? 2020. Join Jazz, everything's good, we're happy here. That's not the date that they use. They use 2020. So it doesn't matter. They'll just use January 1. So it's kind of like if you wait till the end of this year and you're 58, right? It's kind of like you went back in time. So a little extra there. I didn't mean to include that. But anyways, tip number 1, if your income is too high, careful. You may not be allowed to contribute directly to the Roth IRA. Tip number 2, big one, if you're married, filing separately but together and your income's over $10,000, careful there. Number 3, if you're one of those upper income earners, can't or don't want to contribute directly to the Roth, want to reduce your taxable income, you start contributing to the IRA. Check the little thing we just went through. You may not even get a deduction and not even know it, by the way. And number 4, if you have less than 5 years to retire or 5 years until you turn 59 and a half, you want to start taking out the money, 5-year rule applies to you. I hope that helps you in some way. I'll appreciate you guys watching. Have a great rest of your day. Join us for the closing beat. Been around for the closing beat? 5 o'clock live show that we do. Hope you'll join us there. Enjoy, and thanks so much. See you later.